Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? It's Waco from Revolution in Singapore with the one and only Ilaria Resta, CEO of AP. How are you?
Very good, that way.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you. First, happy 150th anniversary on your brand. That's incredible.
Thank you so much. 150 years younger.
Yeah, I can only look forward to the next 150 years. I will try my best to be around for the majority of it.
Same, likewise.
So, we were having dinner together during the celebrations in Brassus, and you said something really interesting to me. You said that a lot of times the point of entry for Audemars Piguet for the brand can sometimes be at the complication level, like at the perpetual calendar level or at the tourbillon level even. That's actually quite rare for a brand. I mean, what is the unique power of AP, and why does this happen, and how can you empower the brand greater with this asset?
Well, it's an excellent question because indeed complications are part of the history of Audemars Piguet since the onset of the brand. Of course, our founding fathers were working and developing their skills on complications, so it's part of our history. But we see more and more younger generations entering through the door of complications, even as a first watch, which is for us a great signal of interest in mechanical watches. And we actually see younger generations bringing their parents into mechanical watches and explaining to them complications. And this is something that is just driving our motivation to continue investing on the development of new complications and perfecting complications.
That's amazing. I love how you said that young people are coming into the brand and even bringing their parents in through complications as well. So let's talk about the perpetual calendar. Now, you guys have just created the Caliber 7138, launched it a couple of weeks ago in the Brassus. And it is, to me, super brilliant because it is actually easy to use, because the majority of them are really not. And I know you started this sort of effort really in particular with RD4, which was this extraordinary grand complication that also was actually quite easy to use as well. Why is it important to address the needs of the customer?
I think there are two main reasons that led us first to the development of the RD4, which is the Universal, but also to the new chapters of Audemars Piguet moving forward. First of all, client centricity is part of our strategies that we have just launched recently, and we are learning more and more about the needs of clients as we talk directly to them. We had the chance, of course, by developing our retail network to have multiple interactions, and the direct exchange with clients make us understand better their needs and how the watch fit in their lifestyle. Because at the end, what we don't want is the watch to be put aside, but rather lived every day. That's what led also the thinking of the Universal. How do you make something extremely complicated? We are talking 40 functions in a relatively small diameter watch. 42 millimeters is relatively small for the size of the amount of complications we have, and we wanted to see it on the wrists of people. This is one reason. The other one is we believe in intuitive ergonomics as being one of the vectors of our innovation moving forward. Intuitive ergonomics is anything like what you are mentioning, the new caliber of the perpetual calendar, which I'm proudly wearing on my wrist today, is a way to offer, if you want clients, an easy setting of a beautiful complication that if you let without using for too many days, then you need to reset, and the setting tools are complicated. If you set it wrongly, you might damage the movement. And we wanted to make sure that anybody can set this wonderful complication, that there is nothing wrong. No, you cannot go wrong. You cannot damage ever the movement, but also by looking at it, you immediately see the time, you immediately see the day, the month, the year, and is ergonomic in any sense. So that's why we believe in the power of this vector innovation.
That's brilliant. I think you put it through the ultimate test because, as we know, journalists are not easy on watches. And so 2 weeks ago, you actually let all the journalists play with the watch, and it was extraordinary because it actually follows this sort of system of logic in the way your mind works. This kind of the first position being the winding position, then you pull it out to the next, and then you have date and month, and then clockwise and counterclockwise.
Exactly.
Then you pull it out further, and it's time setting, and you can do whatever you want, forwards, backwards. You can't injure the watch, which I think is so important as well. And then you have a little sector where you can't change it over, but that if you try to, nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen, exactly. So we're protecting the movement, and we're also giving what we say cognitive ergonomics to clients to remember very easily what to do in an intuitive way. I believe the idea of not having anybody explaining to you what to do is extremely powerful, especially as we want to, what I say in a positive way, open up the doors of mechanical watchmaking to more people, to people who are for the first time managing a perpetual calendar, shouldn't be afraid of touching it. And I think this opens the door to more people to be welcome into the mechanical watchmaking.
I absolutely agree. And I have to say my favorite thing was then this fourth position, which where you go from time back to position number 2, and that effectively creates a fourth position because it goes in sequence. And there you do days of the week, which is linked to the week indicator, and then a quick set for the moon phase, which is super cool as well. I love that. It's funny because we were, I was at the table with you during the dinner, and there's a DJ, I won't mention his name, but quite a well-known one that next to me, and we were joking around because we were trying to identify the market for someone for an RD4, right? So that watch costs not an insignificant amount of money. So we said, okay, no one's gonna spend more than, let's say, 1% of their net worth on a watch, right? So we multiplied it by 100 and said, okay, probably that person's worth this much. Then we said to each other, do you know anyone that is kind of worth that amount of money, not that I hang out with all those people all the time, who actually reads instruction books? And they said,
exactly.
None of them.
None of them.
So I love that it's a watch that someone can pick up, put it on the wrist, like an iPhone, and you figure it out along the way. And actually that journey that you have with the watch connects you to it even more, which I love. The watch you're wearing on your wrist, which I absolutely love, has 3 major talking points. One is the caliber 7138. The second is, of course, the Royal Oak, which is a legend. But the third is a very interesting material that we saw for the first time last year called sand gold. And this is really cool because it's an alloy that's unique to you, created in your own laboratory for creating specific alloys and material innovation. And it has such a strong visual signature to it as well. Tell me why material innovation is so important to AP.
Well, material innovation together with calibers and together also with the decorations are the 3 avenues we follow for innovation. I must say that more and more materials are playing an important role. First of all, because we believe they play a role in the ergonomics. If you think about the bulk metallic glass that we developed recently on one of our jumbo, it protects actually the watch from scratches. So it has a role in the ergonomic and in the ergonomic role of the watch, but also in the livability. What I keep saying is important that the watch is seen on the wrist and doesn't stay in a drawer. The intent of the sand gold is really to give different meaning to light, because when you wear sand gold, depending on the light, the moment of the day, the room you're in, it feels you have a different watch on your wrist. And I think this is a quite wonderful way to give homage to Audemars Piguet that has been playing with the lights through angles and different materials, a mix of materials. So it's definitely a material we love, an alloy that we love and we will continue developing across different models.
That's incredible. So you have the ARC, the Campus, right? And then you also have the high complications in the look. And somewhere in one of these 2 facilities, I'm not sure, you have this laboratory for material research.
Correct.
And in this laboratory, one of the things that you did, we were talking about bulk metallic glass, but it was so interesting to me because the journey with this material was initially for gongs for a repeater, right? Because you were trying every different material as you were pursuing the very lofty goal of the supersonnery. And in the end, you decided not to use it for that.
Correct.
But because its surface hardness was so extreme, you're like, hey, and it's also very beautiful, you used it for this. Tell me about the benefit of having this in-house laboratory, which doesn't necessarily have an objective that's clear at first, but can lead to something very special.
I think you said it very well, this trial and error, this experimenting like in a kitchen. And if you come to this laboratory, you will see we play a lot with different materials. We mix and match different materials, different colors. We are working on forged carbons that are different, and we are playing with different chromatic dimensions of the forged carbon. We are also playing with ceramics and different colors of ceramics. wax. So all these activities allow us to test and learn, to push the boundaries of the material for different purposes. And you mentioned for the sonnerie, of course, we were looking for ways to amplify the sound, but also at the same time, we're working on ways to increase the power reserve by using different materials. So it's important to have it in-house because at the end, it gives us proximity with the other departments, like, of course, the department working on movements, but also it's important as we put it in the case with the bracelet. So we look at all the parts of the watch as one, and we try to make all departments and functions talk to each other to solve multitude of problems that are going beyond the specialization of one.
I love that. You know, sometimes I try to apply one word to define a brand, right? And I guess the one word I would use to define AP is fearlessness, you know? Mm-hmm. And I like the fearlessness in the past because sometimes it was in the midst of a crisis. So the Royal Oak in 72, you've got the quartz crisis, the perpetual calendar in 78 was genuinely to rescue AP from the ravages of the quartz crisis and the entire industry as well. I love the fact that the fearlessness still exists today, and it's expressed beautifully in movements like the 7138 and materials like the sand gold. But we had a discussion about this, and you said, you know what? You can't force this. You can't force audacity. You have to let it grow organically and create a culture for it where people are encouraged to be fearless. And sometimes it doesn't have a success, but that's okay as well. Tell me about that.
I like that you quote me.
Yeah.
So you remember things I said. No, jokes aside, in all honesty, as you know, the story of the Royal Oak, like the thinnest self-winding perpetual calendar, none of the two bets we knew the outcome for, right? When George Collet put these two bets on, who knew we would have turned out 52 years later with such a success. So you need to bet on, and audacity and courage are critical. I think what we are building on is an horological signature for the future. And we like also the word pioneering. That's why we use a lot recently pioneering time as a guide for the future developments, because what we're trying to do is really go into the unsafe place of development, into the unknown, while still being true to our origins. So if you think about it, we are trying to put a boundary which is very large, but still the boundaries are our values, horological values, which are very strict in terms of quality, materials that we can and cannot use to be true to the mechanical watchmaking. At the same time, we want to ensure that we are free to innovate, and we are not constrained from in terms of timings. For example, we don't put a limit. By this date, you need to have the innovation done. Otherwise, by doing so, we force timings, we force shortcuts that we don't want in research and development. So I think it's an effort to develop creativity. Being a family company also helps, of course, because we don't have the pressure, honestly, of certain results which are mainly financial driven, and we are free to explore.
Well, on that subject, you also said something super interesting to me as well, where, you know, you said, with respect to the business, your immediate commercial results are not the primary focus for you. The key thing that you want to put in place are assets for Audemars that will benefit it 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. Patents, for example, are super important to you. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
The mission is perennity, and the mission, as we started celebrating the anniversary, is to celebrate another in 150 years. To do so, you need to have such a long-term view on what's needed that requires investment, it requires freedom to operate, and requires investment on research and development, which is extremely high and important for us. So this is the focus. We have a focus on excellence in manufacturing. So what we develop, we deliver every day as a watch needs to be perfect. But at the same time, we have the telescopic view on what's going to happen in 100 years. How can we put the basis of continuing innovating? And it's fascinating mechanical watchmaking because it's a very old, if you think about it, type of industry, still with the same movements, on the same school of movements, sure. But at the same time, there is this desire to continue innovating. And I see it not only at Audemars Piguet, I must say, I'm very excited by seeing others doing having similar approach.
You mentioned innovation. We got to talk about this whole concept of AP House, because this has never existed before in the watch industry. And the idea of having a community gathering point, a place where you can interact with the watches, with other fans of the brand, and be educated, but also have fun, right? I mean, how important is that to you, and why Singapore?
Well, AP House is a concept which lies the foundation on the love for watchmaking and the love for our clients. And we wanted to walk away from a transactional place, which is still a great place, like boutiques, which we still keep, of course, and give a space for passionate about watchmaking to gather and create friendship. You know it yourself, when you go there, you can't stop an evening because people talk, people exchange, share their wrists, exchange their watches, and we just create an environment of passion sharing. That's why we also have music and we have art, because these are two additional passions we like to share with our friends. But at the same time, we want to create houses that welcome people who don't know about watchmaking. That's why more and more in the houses you will see expositions, like the AP House in Milan. We have a small museum to start sharing our passion for watchmaking and our history to people who have never maybe been to Le Brassus, have never visited an AP boutique or house. So we're trying to balance friendship and gatherings, but at the same time opening the door also to people who want to discover and get to know us.
I love it. Two last questions. So, okay, a business question, but if we look at the Morgan Stanley report, which we understand is not perfect, but anyway, it's a guide, right? From 23 to 24, the revenue grew from 2.35 to 2.38 billion Swiss francs at wholesale. But the volume of watches stayed the same, 51,000 watches, and the average price increased from 48,450 to about 49,000, right? Is this a strategy to raise the value of the average watch through complications, through materials, through what have you? And is that a growth strategy for you?
The strategy on driving complications, driving watchmaking excellence is a critical one. We have been growing complication sales by more than 20%. So
wow.
Clearly, this is a success for a company that is pushing forward the excellence in innovation, elevating the experience with our clients also through different types of decoration, savoir-faire, métier d'art, which are important for us. So we look at growing the value for our customers, especially through the angles of horological expertise that is shown through complications. So this is the main driver of this growth.
That's fantastic. Am I correct that women are also buying complicated watches as well, and in bigger and bigger quantities?
You're absolutely right. In fact, if you look at the biggest contributors of our growth of complication is women. Wow. And is young women. So we're breaking here a paradigm that women are more interested in simple, small watches. Is actually the combination of the two, depending on the occasion. Very often women choose, but more and more women are entering through the door, or they like astronomical complications, calendars in general, and the moon phases is one of the features they love the most.
And that makes AP even more unique and has such a singular positioning. And Ilaria, I know it's just the first overture to the 150th anniversary, and we have many more things to witness throughout the year. So I just want to say thank you so much. Very impressed already. And
thank you so much.
Time.
Thank you for your visit.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.